Welcome back. The U.S. impact on China as China's economy is feeling the tariff sting. Beijing's global exports down better than 1% last month, according to reports, compared to last year. This is the first year-over-year decline in monthly exports since last March. China's total October imports coming in just over $215 billion, compared to exports at $305 billion. Beijing feeling pressure to increase domestic spending now to stabilize growth, as shipments to the U.S. fell more than 25% year over year. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow Gordon Chang. Gordon, good to see you. You think this is a real indicator of what's going on in China? Your reaction to this export-import report?
The reason why this is so important, Maria, is because exports are the only hope for the Chinese economy. We know that China's super efficient factories produce far more than the China can absorb. And we're seeing this, for instance, with the deflation numbers. So clearly China needs to sell. And if it can't sell to the world, the Chinese economy will fail. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, Liz Peek, jump in here, because China tries to be all tough, but they are so reliant on exports to the United States. That's one of the major leverage points this country has.
No question about it, Maria, and they've tried for a decade, I would say, Gordon knows better than I, to boost domestic purchasing, domestic demand, and have been unable to do so. Gordon, after the trade agreement that was crafted a couple of weeks ago, President Trump talked about going to China. Do you think that's a good idea? I worry that the optics of our president visiting Beijing right now would be all wrong. What do you think?
I certainly agree with you, Liz. You know, the Chinese, this is mentality going back thousands of years. It's when you have the vassals, those people who recognize China's grandeur, go to the Chinese capital. And this is exactly the way China has shown this every time that we've had an American president go there. So we've got to recognize that this feeds into China's narrative that the United States has done. President Trump should not go to China, especially when China is deliberately killing Americans with fentanyl. Yeah. So there's so many issues here that need to be solved before an American president ever steps on Chinese soil.
You know, I think just the fact that China tried to bully the United States by squeezing us on the rare earth minerals was reason enough for the president to say, no, I think I'm going to watch the situation unfold before I commit to going to China. I have to agree. But in the meantime, this president is also doing everything he possibly can to get the United States better positioned by getting the supply chains, even supply chains of rare earth minerals, in the United States. We're going to be talking with the CEO of USA Rare Earth coming up to get a better picture of how dependent we are and how long it will take for this president's plan, President Trump's plan, to get the supply chains here. What are your thoughts on that, Gordon?
It'll probably be a half decade before we are fully independent of China. And President Trump is moving at Trump speed on this, and he deserves a lot of credit for it. Also, pharmaceuticals. In his first term, he recognized our dependency on China for pharmaceuticals, which is even greater than our dependency for China on rare earths. So there's so much that we have to do. And Senator Rick Scott, who is chairman of the Senate Aging Committee, is now working on this problem full time. We really need to make sure we get our pharmaceutical factories back on American soil.
Yeah, and that's why I think the brilliance of the president's agenda was so important, because it's all focused on national security. And so I think President Trump knows his customer in Xi Jinping, but he's walking a fine line, knowing that we're not there yet. We cannot decouple right now. All of this as China is adding a more advanced aircraft carrier to its naval fleet. They did so over the weekend, reportedly featuring electromagnetic catapults and other new technology to strike enemy targets at greater distances, Gordon. How concerned should we be about this and their continuing focus on their military in China?
Well, Chinese propagandists tell us that this is for taking Taiwan, but it's not, because China has so many land-based air bases in order to do that. This carrier and the two previous ones are really an indication that China intends to project force. And we know that it has territorial claims on almost all of its neighbors. So countries like the Philippines should be especially concerned by this. And, you know, it's going to be more than just 3 carriers. China is not going to rest until it has more carriers than we do.
Yeah. And that is why the White House is prohibiting certain things from happening, such as NVIDIA selling its latest Blackwell chip to China. This is critical, and it's a critical setback for Chinese companies who were relying on that specific processor to train massive AI data sets. Your reaction?
Yeah, President Trump deserves a lot of credit for not doing what most everybody thought he would do, which was to relax controls on NVIDIA's Blackwell architecture chips. You know, the Chinese try to tell us that they are ahead of us on chips, but we know that that's not true because DeepSeek, the AI company from China, has not released its R2 model. And they've actually said that the reason why they've delayed the release is because that they were relying on Huawei's Ascend chip and couldn't get American ones. So we know that China desperately needs American chips, and we shouldn't be selling them to them because really what we're doing is helping China bridge a period of dependency. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be supporting our own AI companies.
And it's thanks to President Trump that NVIDIA is now producing that chip in Arizona. CEO Jensen Huang came on this program telling us that there are no active discussions about selling the chip to China. He said that over the weekend, but I spoke with him 2 weeks ago just about that Blackwell chip. Here's what he said, watch.
AI is an industrial revolution. And this is the most important technology of our time, potentially the most important technology of all time. And when President Trump first took office, he wanted us to manufacture these critical technologies onshore. He wanted to reindustrialize the United States. He wants to have energy growth. He wants to make sure that the United States is a leader in artificial intelligence. And in order to do so, we need to lead in energy. We need to lead in chips. We need to lead in building AI infrastructures and factories, including lead in building AI models, of course, but also using AI in all the different applications in various industries, from healthcare to manufacturing. And so I told them that we would bring manufacturing back. Within 9 months, with the partnership of TSMC, which is an incredible partner for the United States, Foxconn, Wistron, Amkor, and Spill, we've been able to manufacture now the most advanced AI chip in the world completely in the United States in Arizona.
This is a pretty big deal, Gordon, that they're manufacturing this in Arizona. Obviously, they want to sell to China, but there are no active discussions because President Trump said no. The chip will not go to our #1 adversary.
Yes, and President Trump, as I said, deserves a lot of credit for not raising that issue at the October 30 meeting. Now, Jensen Huang will continue to press the administration, but I hope that President Trump will stand firm on this because selling chips to China, even the legacy chips, is not a good thing for us.
All right, Gordon, great to get your take as always. Thank you so much, Gordon Chang.